Hello students, so welcome back for the Unit 3 Part 2. So in this we'll be seeing the overview of the logistics. So when you talk about logistics, why it is very important and becoming increasingly important. So cost reduction pressures are very severe when you talk about logistics. Logistics has a high impact on the customer service. A strong need exists for demand and supply planning and consistency. A focus on core competency has placed logistics in this outsourcing spotlight. Development of IT technology supports integrated logistics and management. So these are the various factors why logistics are becoming increasingly important these days. So when you talk about value-added transportation concept, so this is one of a simpler view to see that how logistics is utilized. So you talk about supply. So supply is being transported to the manufacturer. So that's an inbound logistics for that. So from a manufacturer goes to a customer. So that's an outbound. So this is a way of product inflow and info return goods flow. So over here, the product information flows is there. So over here, return goods information flow is being given over. So this is a simpler view to understand that how logistics inbound and outbound are performed. So what is the role of transportation? So with respect to time and place utility, movement across space or distance. So place utility where it is being needed. If you talk about time utility, created or ordered by the warehousing and storage of product until it is very needed. So also a factor in time utility, it determines how fast and how consistency a product moves from one point to another. So critical element of structure, capacity and movement decisions, both between the supply chain members and intra-organizations is one of the key role in value attainment process. When you talk about speed, time in the transit, that is how much time is required in the transit and how long the product is being sitting idle in a particular place is taken into consideration. Availability, accessible to customers when they want it. Dependability, pickup and delivery time variability is being very flexible as per the customer's perfume. Flexibility, adjustment to the shipper's need. So it has to be very flexible. Flexible is one of the key phase in transportation. So role of transportation in logistics and supply chain. So transportation function, principal participation, transportation regulation, industry structure, services, and furthermore industry deregulations. So these are the phases what you're going to see in transportation from now. So this is one of an example, that is when you transport cost was per book. So when you talk about a per book, your transportation is going to be very high because it's a per item. The more items is transported, the less the transportation cost item per unit of weight will be there. So as you see, when you transport one particular book, you have to spend 100 rupees per. In that particular place, if you transport nearly 1,000 books, the cost is going to be decreased by nearly 100% over here. 90% of your cost will be reduced because you are transporting the more number of products. So this is one of a simple example to understand why the more items you transport, the less the transportation cost per item. Over here, your economic distances like transportation cost per mile. So if you transport per mile to 1,000 mile, what happens is the cost per mile is increased. So when you see the larger distance, the less transportation cost per unit of distance will come. So this showcases how your number of products has to be there and the distance has to be measured on that. So your shipping distance is going to be much higher, your cost is going to be much lower in this aspect. So who are the transportation participants over here? So when you talk about transportation participants, public is one of the major parameter over here, followed by the carriers and agents over here, which is then interlinked to internet, shippers, government, and the receiver. So all these are the transportation participants. What are the regulations which needs to be followed up? So when you think in the perspective of economic, Investments in transportation infrastructure, such as anything like highways to airports, ports, roads, railway routes, everything. So they have to be taken into consideration in the economic factors. So control of routes, pricing, and schedules. So which type of a mode of transport you're going to take it to. So based on that, your pricing will be affected. Based on that, again, based on which transport routes, your schedules also will be affected. The next factor is social and safety. So you have to protect the public and protect the environment. So this is one of the key concern in current aspect. Make sure equipment operates safely, cleanly. Safe transportation of hazardous materials is very much required, because when you transport like petroleum products or any other chemical products, the transportation of hazardous materials must be taken into highest consideration for safety aspect. Then regulating the hours work. Right now, we cannot rule out this particular aspect, because in each and every city, when the transportation of hazardous materials to be done, we have to take into consideration about the regulating hours which the particular transportation can be utilized. For example, when you're transporting a windmill, you have to take into consideration when the lesser the traffic, the better for transportation. So for right now we are building up metros in our cities and all. So although regulating hours might be after 10 o'clock in the night till the morning 6. So this is kind of regulating hours which they can work without any intervention of any other public. So what is the five basic transportation? So as we discussed in the earlier aspect, so one is the shipping one, water, through air, aeroplanes, through highways, we have larger trucks over there, then through the railway systems, then using the pipeline. So we have seen some examples. So we'll see them in the detail. So basic modes of transport. When you think about the railway, when you talk about the fixed cost, it is very high. But the variable cost is low. So what is that composition which can be used in railways? So bulk food, mining, oil, and heavy manufacturing machines and all can be transported to the railways. When you talk about the motor, uh, low fixed cost is required over here, and variable cost is kind of a medium in compared to the railway aspect. So over here, motor is uh, one of the basic transport which is used by many customers in place. Usually, the consumer goods, medium or light manufacturing, bulk food, medium or light manufacturing such as vegetables, farmers, and other consumable foods which is being transported uses mostly about the motorways. When you think about the water, like a shipping, the fixed cost is medium and variable low cost, but it has to be bulk food, mining, chemicals, and any other uh, materials which is in bulk mode can be transported. Air fixed cost is low, but the variable cost is very high, because when if you book any transportation in the next day through air, your variable cost is going to be very much high. Only the high value goods, rush shipments can be utilized in this air transport for optimization. At the final, the piping one, the fixed cost is very high, because you have to integrate the entire structure for this for a particular pipelines. But the variable cost is pretty low. Usually for petroleum, chemicals, mineral slurry, all which is related to liquid or gaseous forms, these traffic compositions will be utilized. So when you talk about all this transport, we need to know about containers also. So significant growth during the Vietnam improves efficiency and protects materials, reduce handling and filtration. That is the major containering which is helps these aspects. So there are two set of containers. When you talk in industrial aspect, 20 feet or 40 feet containers. And these are shorter to permit multiple units on rail cars. So what do you mean by T? That is 20 equivalent of units, and 40 is FEU is 40 equivalent units. So these are the ones which is being said over here. So once we have seen the functions, principles, regulation, transport, industry structures, and all, we have to see that transportation services. So non-operating intermediaries traditional transportation carriers, package services, intermodal transportation. So we'll see one more. So over here, the offering of nearly any form of transportation to a shipper or receiver as a part of a total package of logistics service. So this is one of the third party providers which is being indicated. Shippers or user avoids capital outlays and investment. Focus on core competency, let the experts do the logistics. So we have seen the third party route. So we have to see the freight forward. Formerly common carriers, non-asset ownings they are. So they earn the difference between what they charge between LTL, LCL and what they pay CL and TL. Issue bill of land. That is, full truckloads is known as FTL, less than truckload as LTL, full container load FCL, and less than container load is known as LCL. Because we need to know all these abbreviations when talk about logistics in freight forward. So forward operation is something which is like when a LTL shipper is going to be transporting to a terminal, then for hire a carrier is being hired, where again it is transferred to the terminal, followed to the receiver. So it is like pickup, consolidation, line haul, then breaking the bulk and selling to the receivers. So who are the freight brokers over here? Intermediaries who bring shippers and carriers together for a fee. Finding customers for carriers or carriers of the shippers, who reduce the burden of carriers and shippers. Find the best means or rate for the shipping contracts, helps maximize capacity of the carrier, information system expanding through different opportunities. One of the main thing is maximizing the capacity of the carrier, because when you talk about a shipping carrier, it can nearly transport more than 1,000 tons. So you need to maximize that capacity, or else it is going to be non-profitable for the carriers over there. So next thing is the owner operator. That is, you own or lease a truck and trailers and make service available to far higher carriers. Contract out their services to other carriers, provide overflow capacity and flexibility. Reduces financial risk to the carriers also. This is something which is owned by the manufacturing companies or the companies which is providing the product. Followed by is the express and couriers. So we have seen like UPS, FedEx, DHL, many different types of couriers, express are there. So they operate at a large network of terminals, pickups, and delivery vehicles and line. So they are widely ranged over there. Typically under 200 pounds. That is in kgs. If you talk, it is like about below 100 kgs. So it competes with the current postal service. So the future good due to expansion and innovative practices. So its future is like much better also, because they have a better transparency while transporting any kind of products through express and couriers and all these. Following that, we have to see what is the intermodal transportation. The use of two or modes of transportation in moving a shipment from its origin to its destination. Mostly associated with a piggyback or container shipment, combines advantages of each mode to which is to be used. Also, it reduces the risk of thief, theft, and loss, because one of the main aspects is safety over here. Shortens customers' order cycle time and effectively reduces the cost. Promotes seamless product movement, eliminates unnecessary handling. So intermodal is something combining rail, truck, water, using different uh, modes of transport at different places, which enables the shippers to benefit from advantages of multi-modes of transportation, minimizes disadvantages of individual modes. So transshipment is a shipment of goods or containers to an intermediate destination, then to yet another destination. So this is clearly done through different types of transportation. One possible reason for transshipment is to change the means of transport during the journey. Example, machinery from India is often imported through transshipment via Dubai. That is, if you are transporting something from China or Japan, comes through Dubai. So changing the transportation environment. So how do we do that? We do that through deregulation, time-based competition, expanding geographic coverages, information technology, social and environmental concerns has to be taken into account. So there are few things like selected results of the changing environment. What will be the results of this? So increased competition in individual market, both within the modes and between nodes, more efficient carrier operations, less interlining, more direct routing will be available, efficient pricing will be there. Transportation costs declined in real terms as percentage of the GDP. Transportation service quality is improved dramatically. Following that, consolidation in railway air LTL trucking, proliferation of TL carriers, strong growth in regional trucking networks, TL growing faster than the LTL, air freight growth, intermodal, growth of one-stop shopping that is from the third party, private fleet conversion. So these are the various things which is being done over there. Following that, through information, what happens is demand for fast, dependable responsiveness is given, and service at a very low cost can be provided. This is based on the information aspect. Demand for a broader range of service to integrate supply chain functions. Core carrier concepts, interdependence between the shipper and carrier, customized price or service packages and contracts, relational view of transportation as a value added service. Following this, we'll move on to transportation management. So, network freight flows, macro decisions, micro decisions, information system support. So, these are the things. So, when you see in this particular diagram, what you can understand is this base over here, we have seen this, right? From a supplier to an inbound, that is manufacturer, and do an outbound logistics is the customer. So, what is happening? So, micro to macro decision scope. Understand total network flows, understanding individual lane flows, understand current carrier usage patterns, make the mode or carrier decisions which needs to be done, then how you are routing and scheduling, how you are planning for load, and all these things will be considered in this logistics of inbound and outbound. There, your strategic decision flow to an operational aspect will be done. Following this, managing inbound outbound flow in an optimal manner requires firms to have a good handle on the entire logistic process. Traditional view of transportation in a vacuum need to look at it in the context of the total logistics system. Greatest improvements opportunity lies in integrating transportation with other logistics functional areas such as purchasing, inventory, control, forecasting, and production schedule. So when you talk about this, analyze lane densities frequencies. So what opportunities emerge? So inbound or outbound consolidation can be done. Vehicle consolidations, temporal consolidations, network consolidation, that is cross-docking potential can be done over here. Once opportunities for consolidations are visible, make the mode or carrier selection based on the service. So given small similar service, rates better on one mode or carrier than the other. So this has to be considered over here. Does any mode or carrier have relative strength in a particular name? So if anyone provides a particular strength, we have to make a use of it. Any backhaul opportunities are there? If so, look to the consolidate loads or mode or carrier with the best cost structure has to be taken into. So assigning a private fleet to most costly routes. So when you see the consolidation as we discussed over the inbound and outbound flow consolidation, look for opportunities to combine those two in a freight form. Vehicle is consolidation is like for LTL volumes versus one shipment to each. Temporal is like hold orders until large volume of shipment is possible over there. Suggested analysis are network flow analysis, lane densities, what are the frequencies to be considered, how consistency it is, freight distribution by mode, which carrier has to be utilized, The mode has to be selected appropriately, considering the cost also. Consolidating the opportunities for inbound and outbound. So, what are the key principles? So, one is the improving the efficiency is one of the major aspect in any kind of an operation. So, what is the rule of efficiency? Straight line, minimize stopping, avoid damage or cost. So, minimize handling, avoid handshakes, and attempt to make process seamless. Full capacity allows us to reduce the cost per unit. To break the bulk and concentration on long haul. Avoid empty halls, back halls. Effective scheduling is more important because optimizing is labor and equipment is only 5 to 10%. Transportation rates are based on the distance related, not distance proportional. That has to be taken into account very carefully. So, what is the efficient use of technology and equipment? High utilization of expensive assets. Larger the vehicle, the lower the cost. Speed does not equal the economical operation. Minimize vehicle gross weight. So, standardize vehicles and equipment costs. Balance specialization with adaptability. Examine trade-offs between IT and traditional logistics. So, coordinate operations with the requirements to ensure trade-offs and appropriate level of service. Cost accountability as a part of performance measurement. Reliability is something uh, better than the speed has to be taken into account because reliability is one of the important aspects which is better than the speed. Look for opportunities to innovate but recognize the proven principles. So customer service is one of the important things where order cycle lead time, stock availability, record integrity, and the frequency of deliveries being taken into account. Delivery reliability is one of the major aspects because if you are reliable to deliver at any given phase, customers tend to that set of services. Order tracing capability is showing the transparency between the entire transport services. That is the entire SCMS transparency to the customer. Flexibility of the volume. So whatever the order may be, if you are flexible in spite of volumes, your SCMs will be very high and opportunities will tend to be more. Following that, invoice accuracy, order status information, technical support responsiveness is one of the key aspects for any satisfying customers. Unscheduled service responsiveness, speed of product future changes, product and service quality. So these are the various aspects which needs to be taken into account for component for customer service measures. So following that, the total cost concept. The total cost concept recognizes that an optimum cost in one area or function may not lead to an optimum total system. Total cost analysis requires the management of supply chain trade-off. Logistical activity areas that drive total logistic cost are one is customer service level cost, inventory carrying cost, lot quantity cost, order processing, warehousing, and transportation. So these are the various costs which has to be taken into consideration. So with this, we'll wind up the part 2 of the unit. Thank you.